As you guys see by the title, it is finally happening. Today I'm looking at your guys' hot takes and I'm going to be going over them. Now what that means is that I'm going to be saying if it's a W take, L take, and obviously giving my opinion on it. With that being said, we're going to get started with the YouTube hot takes first, and then we will move on to the TikTok hot takes. If you guys want to see a part 2 on this one, please make sure to show some love to the video and leave more hot takes down in the comments. Let's get to it. So we have our first collection of hot takes here from Huck Solo. First of all, he's going to start with solo leveling isn't overhated, it's just no longer overrated like it was. Now, I will say I think overall I'm going to give this one a W take already, but my opinion on it is that I do agree for the most part. However, I do think it does get overhate from certain people because some people will sit there and tell you that like it's a bad show or it's not that good because like the writing's not there and stuff like that, but I think they completely missed the point of the show. The point of the show is to not have good writing or anything like that. Now, if that's what you want in a show, then sure. But honestly, I would call this show a brain rot anime. It's an anime that you just turn on, have cool fights, have cool moments, and that's it, right? And I think it serves that purpose very well. I don't think it's a fantastic anime by any means because I do think a fantastic anime requires you to have a little bit of everything, and Solo Leveling just doesn't. However, there are some people that call it one of the worst anime ever when it's really not, you know, it's just not a very complete anime. His second take is Domestic Girlfriend isn't as crazy as everybody makes it seem. Now, personally, I have not seen the show, but I will tell you now that I probably will never watch a romance anime ever because my opinion on the romance genre is that I don't understand why you'd ever watch a show about romance when you could have romance in real life. I've been in a few relationships before in my time, and I will say that is so much better than any feeling a show could give you about romance. So to me, I always think romance shows are overrated anyway. So I'm sure I do agree with this because I think any romance anime is bad, or any romance show in general is bad. Just go out and have real romance and stop being a chud. That's my opinion on that. His next take is, if One Piece haters who have seen all of Naruto watched an equal amount of One Piece episodes as Naruto episodes, they would have seen that they would love it. Now, I do agree with that. I honestly think if you like Naruto or One Piece, you definitely are going to like the other. So I do see people that have watched one of them and not the other that do hate on them. So I do agree this is a W take as well. It goes both ways though, because there are Naruto fans that hate on One Piece that haven't seen it, and it's like, if you like Naruto, you'll like One Piece. If you like One Piece, you'll like Naruto. I think there's very few people that don't like both, in my opinion. It's just, honestly, the shows are kind of similar. They're both like just really good shonen anime, so yeah. His next take is going to be the first L take in my opinion. Bleach is the best in the big three. I actually believe Bleach is the worst in the big three. In my opinion, at least if we're going off of anime and not manga, Bleach definitely has the worst pacing out of all of them. It has the worst filler out of all of them, and in my opinion has the worst characters out of all of them. Now, I'll give Bleach, I do think Bleach has the best story out of all of them, so if you just care about the story and nothing else, then I could totally see how you have Bleach ahead. However, I think Bleach has a very big issue with pacing where all of the best moments are super duper short and all of the bad moments are really, really long, and honestly that makes a show kind of hard to watch, whereas like with Naruto and One Piece, it's completely different. The best moments in Naruto are the longest. The best moments in One Piece are the longest. Well, all of One Piece is long, so your best moments are long and your bad moments are long. But Bleach, I feel like, does the opposite. Its bad moments are really, really long, and the good ones are really, really short. Like, people love the Ulquiorra fight. That was like an episode and a half. And then you have the Uryu and Renji versus the pink-haired dude or whatever. Personally, my least favorite fight in all of anime. And that stretches across like 20 episodes, dude. So, I don't know. I disagree with Bleach being the best in the big three. I think it has more issues than both One Piece and Naruto. I do think Naruto is the best. If you would have it over One Piece, I could understand that. But I personally don't see having it over Naruto at all. Then we have Made in Abyss is an amazing anime and has the best world building in anime. Look, I haven't seen the show, but everything I've seen about the show, it looks a little crazy. I think the world building looks great, but I think it's weird how it's a show about a bunch of little kids and then it ends up becoming like really strange. And I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but I heard that one of the kids gets like pregnant, or one of the creatures gets pregnant and their child gets killed or whatever. I don't know, dude. That just sounds really weird to me. I can't really give this a W or L because I haven't seen it, but I don't plan on watching it. So if I had to lean one way, I'd say L take, but I haven't seen it, so I really can't give a full opinion on it. And I'm going to be reacting to every single comment that was left, whether I have seen the shows you guys are talking about or not, because I said I would, and I'll at least give some thought on it. But his last take is, not every villain needs some tragic backstory. I agree, but I don't agree. I think in general it's a W take because that is true, but I do think you need a villain to have depth. Like, for example, you know, I like Dragon Ball, people love Dragon Ball, but the villains suck. They have no backstory. It doesn't even need to be tragic. They just don't have a backstory. They have no character, this, and that. And the thing about a tragic backstory is it builds a lot of character, which is why a lot of the best villains have a tragic backstory, but it doesn't necessarily have to be tragic, but they need a backstory. They need things to be there for a villain to truly be great. You look at the best villains of all time, like, honestly, I think people would say it, but I disagree. They say, Johan has a tragic backstory or whatever. I don't think it's necessarily tragic. Like, it is, but it isn't, because he is way worse than his backstory could ever be, so I don't really feel bad for him, if that makes sense. So, like, him, for example, I wouldn't call it necessarily as tragic, and he's still a phenomenal villain, but a lot of the best villains just have good character development, like Obito, Madara as well, like Aizen. Like, Aizen doesn't have a tragic backstory, but he is a well-developed character, so yeah, I don't think it necessarily needs to be a tragic backstory, but good villains need to have good character. So I agree, W take. Now, our next take is going to come from King Kazuya, and he said Death Note isn't good and is just every girl's favorite. Now, first of all, I'm going to say straight away, this is an L take. I do think Death Note is good. I do think it is overrated, though. If you would have said that, I would have agreed. I don't think the every girl's favorite thing is necessarily correct. The thing I would say about it is the first half of Death Note, when it's L versus Light, is some of the best anime you'll ever see. Everything after that is incredibly terrible. So if you would have said it was overrated, I would agree. I do still think it is good, though, and it is worth watching all the stuff between L versus Light. So overall, I am going to say L take. I'm sorry, I do disagree on this one. Then we have a take from Yendel, I hope I pronounced that right, and their first take is Redo of Healer is actually good. Now, I have not seen the show, but I'll be honest, it doesn't look enticing to me. So I can't really give a W or L opinion on this one, or WL take, because I haven't seen the show. It doesn't look appealing to me, so I don't think I would like it anyway, but maybe it is good, I don't know. Their next take, though, is Domestic Girlfriend has one of the best first episodes in anime. So I talked about the romance one earlier. It's so funny how some of the first comments that were left were about Domestic Girlfriend, but here's what I will say. Same thing again, I don't like romances, so I would probably disagree. I don't know. Romances to me just don't make sense. Like, they will never hit the same as a real relationship, so I just do not enjoy them. Whereas, like, other emotions I feel like can be very clearly expressed in anime, love is not one of them to me. And their last take are most shonen are overrated because kids don't realize long fight scene is filler for actual writing. Now, this is going to be a take I do disagree with, because not everything is about writing, in my opinion. Now, some people, if you want just stories that are about the writing and you don't really care about action and stuff, then yeah, the shows would be overrated to you, but the point of the fights is to just be like a cool fight moment. There's not necessarily a point for it to have writing, if that makes sense. I think it's more about, this take is more of just confusing, like, preference over purpose, because the purpose of the fight is just to be a cool fight. Not every fight is supposed to have, like, super big meaning or anything like that, or to have, like, writing in it. No, a lot of them do, and a lot of them are great, but a lot of them don't and are still great. So I think it's more of a thing that you probably just don't like shows that are missing writing. You know, there are shows that have writing and good fights, but some people would just like the cool fights, you know. So I think I can't really give it a W or L, because it's more just like an opinion thing. So for you, it's like, you probably just don't like stuff that doesn't have super good writing in it, which there are a lot of shows that are like that, are really popular, like Solo Leveling that we talked about earlier, but I don't think it's necessarily overrated. I think it's just that you don't like it not having writing. So I give it a W and an L take, because I don't think it is true, but it might be true for you, I guess. That's kind of a cop-out answer, but I'm gonna put it in the middle. Our next take comes from Swayze1144, I believe. Sorry if I didn't hold the Z long enough, but we have Darling in the Franxx and SAO and Dragon Ball are peak. Here's what I will say. Darling in the Franxx, I'm going to disagree on. I hate mech anime. There's not a single mech anime that I like, unless if you count Code Geass, but I don't count that as a mech anime. It's just an anime with mechs in it. To me, mechs are the worst type of shows in anime, so I am going to have to disagree with that one. Sword Art, I used to watch Sword Art. It was actually my second anime ever, and once it gets to the season about the fairies, it completely falls off a cliff. So I'm going to disagree about it being peak. I understand if you like Sword Art. I'm not hating on Sword Art, but I do disagree that it's peak. And lastly, we have the Dragon Ball one. I get it. Dragon Ball is similar to Solo Leveling. It's kind of a brain rot show. There's not much writing in Dragon Ball. There's not much story in Dragon Ball. There's not much character progression in Dragon Ball, unless you're looking at Vegeta. Like, most of the things in Dragon Ball are pretty stagnant. It's just cool fights, cool transformations and stuff. And so I agree in terms of like the type of show it is peak. It is probably the best like turn your brain off anime because you don't need to have like great comprehension for Dragon Ball. Hell, you probably don't even need to have the words on the screen for Dragon Ball. You don't even need to have the audio on to know what's going on, right? Like that's how simple it is. So I think in terms of simple anime, it's probably the best like simple anime, but you know, I feel like that just depends if you value that or not. Now, I like all types of anime other than pretty much romance and like slice of life. Like I pretty much watch anything else. And Dragon Ball, in terms of simple anime, it's pretty good. Simple anime are also good in my opinion. Not my favorite by any means. Like Dragon Ball probably does not make my top 20. But if we're looking at the top like anime that are easy for any audience to understand, Dragon Ball would probably be number 1. So I'm cool with the Dragon Ball being peaked. The other two I do disagree with. So I'm going to say L take because you got 1 out of 3 right in my opinion. Just a reminder as we continue, this is my opinion. So if you disagree, that's totally fine. It's not a big deal. Then we have a take from Poppers12. It doesn't matter how long you've been watching anime, everybody's opinion is equally valid. I 100% agree. My only take about this that I would slightly change is I think a lot of people that you talk to will be like, oh, you haven't finished the show, you can't have an opinion on it. That's just wrong. I personally think you have 4 episodes. A show has 4 episodes to get you hooked. If it doesn't get you hooked by 4 episodes, it's not a great introduction to a story, and therefore the show can't be that great if it can't even get you hooked. So to me, I think you have to give a show 4 episodes before you can actually like really talk about it. Now I can say a show doesn't look good. For example, Blue Lock. I'm never going to watch Blue Lock because it doesn't look entertaining to me. However, I'm not going to sit here and be like talking about the bad stuff about Blue Lock because I haven't seen it. And I feel like you have to watch 4 episodes of a show to really get the gist of what's going to be happening. And now sometimes you may miss out on gems because I'll be honest, the beginning of One Piece does kind of suck. And then once you get to like episode like 20 something or 30 something, it becomes really good. However, if you're going to have an issue with those first few episodes, you're probably going to have an issue with the rest of the show because there are points in the show that do repeat how the beginning is. So I think if you can't get somebody hooked by 4 episodes, then you have every right to drop that show. However, you also can't really speak on a show if you can't get past 4 episodes of it. So I think if you watch 4 episodes of a show, you have the right to talk about it. You have the right to talk about your gripes with it and what you don't like about it. For example, I don't like Dandadan. Watched 5 episodes of Dandadan, didn't like it at all. I feel like that's more than enough to give an opinion about it. Our next take here is going to come from Squeetosis. Sorry, I hope I said that right. They said when Rising of Shield Hero first came out, there were so many people glazing and calling it peak isekai, and how it was so good. It was one of the most mid, if not terrible, anime I'd ever seen, and my first anime as a kid was Fairy Tail. Look, I haven't seen Rising of the Shield Hero, but all of my friends have seen it, and one of my friend's favorite anime was Rising of the Shield Hero when season 1 came out. He says the rest of it kind of sucks, but all my friends also agree that it's not that good. I haven't seen it, but if I'm not mistaken, Rising of the Shield Hero is an isekai. Oh yeah, you called it an isekai, so it is for sure. I think isekai is a pretty bad genre. I think it's really a dime a dozen in isekais. Like, you can watch 12 isekais and one of them will be good. The rest of them are going to be really terrible. That's just how the genre goes, and Shield Hero is probably no exception. I will be honest, it's probably pretty bad because most isekais are very basic, don't have an original story, don't have original characters, and yeah, most of them do suck. So I will say, although I haven't seen the show, I'm going to give it a W take because I hear a lot of people that do agree with this, and I would be likely to agree with this because isekai is a rough genre to find good shows in. Next up, we have a manga hot take, which is people hype up Modulo Yuji way too much for only having like 3 feet. People just be making things up about this guy. I'm going to say straight away, W take, I do agree. I haven't read all of it, so I'm not going to pretend like I, am a super big fan of Modulo or whatever. But here's what I will say. They confirmed that Modulo is not even canon, so people making up feats or anything like that doesn't even matter. I don't really understand why people are overrating him when it's not even canon to the story. Like, who really cares? And I get it, you'd be like, oh, Modelo Yuji, this, and that. But I do agree. I think people hype it up because it's JJK. JJK gets hyped up so much, and it is a good show, but it definitely gets way overhyped. So, yeah, I will agree with you for sure. They definitely are overrating him. Sorry, that take comes from Job the Great. Sorry, I forgot to read the name. Our next take here is from My Rose Toy. Interesting name. I have none in mind, so here's what I'm going to write. He looks kind of cute today. Anyway, bye. That's not a hot take. That's absolutely a W take. Absolutely agree with that one. Super, super amazing take right there. Probably the best take we've ever had on the channel or just in any anime discourse. So absolutely agree. Our next take here comes from Not Nash VS, and he says, Aaron should have gotten his 100% achievement. I'll be honest, I dropped Attack on Titan. I'm not a big fan of it, so I personally can't really speak on this. If you guys that have seen Attack on Titan in the comments, let me know if you guys agree with this or not. I'm not the biggest fan of Attack on Titan, so I'm not really sure about this. But yeah, I just thought I would bring it up because, you know, it was one of the comments left. Our next take here comes from Tao Guy UT. There's no funny anime that's not JoJo's. I've said it. Now, I'm going to disagree with this one straight away. I do think JoJo's is a really funny show. However, it's not even the funniest anime I have watched. I do think shows like Mashle, Onizuka, and honestly even Fire Force are funnier than JoJo's. I do think JoJo's is an incredibly funny show, but there are definitely anime that are funnier than JoJo's in my opinion. Now, what's funny is obviously just a opinion. However, I do think if you can't find another anime funny like JoJo's, I just think you probably haven't looked for one because there are definitely funnier anime. Like, I don't think anybody would say that JoJo's is funnier than Onizuka, who have seen both. So I'm going to say L take. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree here. There are definitely anime that are as funny, if not funnier than JoJo's. Our next take here, comes from a dude with a long name. I'm going to try to read this. Abdurrahmanithado. Hopefully I got that. I know it's pretty slow. I do apologize. But they left a comment saying, SBR manga is second to only Berserk, and when the anime is finished airing, it will be one of the best animes of all time. I've actually read SBR, and I haven't read Berserk, so I don't know. SBR is probably my second favorite manga I've ever read. Now, I think if you want to go about writing standpoint, it's probably the best one writing-wise that I have ever read, but it's not my favorite. My favorite, which a lot of people may not count it, but I'd say The God of High School. It's in that manhwa/manga realm, but I did enjoy that a little bit more than Steel Ball Run. However, I do agree that Steel Ball Run is incredibly phenomenal, and although I am hopeful that it's going to end up being one of the greatest animes of all time, I think its release at the start is going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, so a lot of people may not agree with that. However, I think when it's all said and done, I think it will be one of the best anime seasons of all time. So I'm going to say W take. We have our next take here from Chadwick Sonal, or Sonal, however you say it, I do apologize. We have JJK is mid and overrated. It's carried by cool fights. I can agree with the overrated part, but I don't think it's mid. I do think JJK is a good show. It genuinely has a lot of really likable characters, and the story is really interesting. If you wanted to say the depth isn't there that much, you know, I could maybe agree with that, but I do think it has a lot more to it than just cool fights. It does have cool fights, sure, but it also has a lot of really cool characters, a lot of really likable characters, a lot of great music too, which I think people underrate how important it is in anime, but if you've got good soundtracks playing while you're watching a show, it's definitely going to get you more invested. So I will say I do disagree. I am going to give this an L take. I do apologize. I could maybe hear that it's overrated, but I don't think that it's mid. I think it definitely has a lot of good things to it. Like I said, the characters, like you said, the fights, and it's got a very interesting story as well. Now we're on to our last take for the YouTube comments, and that is going to be the last arc of Monster's top 5 in anime. I'm currently still watching Monster, so I can't really give an opinion on it. However, Monster's pretty good so far. I will say I do actually believe Monster is a little bit overrated because the pacing in Monster is pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of episodes that are kind of just repeats, and it gets a little bit slow at times. However, the story of Monster is really great, so maybe it's really good. I don't know. I haven't got there yet. I'll have to see when I get there. But now we're going to move on to our TikTok hot takes. For those of you who follow me on TikTok, in the description, by the way, both of my TikToks, I asked you guys to drop your anime hot takes, so we have a few comments over here that we'll go through. Next, we have a take from one of my friends, Carson. He says, Aoashi is better than Blue Lock. He did have a slight typo, but that's fine. Look, I'm a Blue Lock hater, even though I haven't seen the show, but I've seen clips from the show, and I'm not a big fan of the way it looks. Personally, I don't really like the way Blue Lock looks, and I think it's honestly a piss take on what soccer actually is. So, yeah, I'd agree with this. I'd say W take. Now we have a bit of a longer one from Just a Simple Dude Guy Man Bro. What a name, by the way. He says, this is more about anime fans. If you expect every single show you watch to meet a very strict set of your own criteria, then you don't know the first thing about consuming media. For example, people who complain about Season 2 of Vinland Saga because it lacks the action of Season 1 miss the point of the show because they are preemptively judging it based off what their own inflexible mind wants. If you immediately judge something as trash because you refuse to see it from another perspective, then you have no right to criticize it. If you watch something and understand the message, see what the author is trying to convey, and then still find an issue with it, you will find better, more accurate criticism. So this take is a little bit harsh. I don't know if I agree or disagree. I do agree with the fact that you should be watching shows with an open mind. I definitely agree with that part, but I think as well it's I would like this take more if you would blame the watcher. It's like you are continuing to watch something even though you know it's going to change. Like you said with the Vinland Saga, it's like you can kind of see it if you're just being ignorant to it on purpose, that Vinland Saga is not going to turn into like a psychological thing with Thorfinn and everything like that. Like if you're just purposely being blind to it, then you shouldn't really have a right. I do agree with that. I just don't really like the way this is worded, because maybe if it is misleading, which Vinland Saga really isn't. I mean, Vinland Saga, you can tell from a mile away what it's going to turn into, but there are some shows that do kind of just take a full 180, and even though there is a perspective to be looked at it from, I think that could be valid of criticism. I'd say overall it's a W take, but it is a little bit harsh, I would say. But I do agree with, as well, if you try to watch a show with an open mind and you get a message from it, you will have better criticism for a show. Like, for example, for me at least, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, I went into it with an open mind. I hate cyberpunk type shit, but I ended up really liking the show. However, I think the ending is super misunderstood, and I think it's because a lot of people, like he said, just didn't want to watch it with an open mind. They had an image of David from the start, and it just didn't want to change. David does a full 180 in the show. He goes from a super smart, nice kid who's willing to help out and gets in some bad trouble to, honestly, a piece of shit. Like, he turns into a really awful person, and people don't want to admit that, and it does. I mean, it's great for the story, but I think, I agree. I think if you're open-minded more with the show, it gives you better criticism, so I would agree this is a W take. It is just a little bit harsh. Next, we have a take from Lando.everywhere. Hot take, but Sukuna would have lost if Gojo won. Honestly, he's right, man. To talk about it a little bit, you know, obviously this is a little bit of a manga spoiler, so I do apologize, but I think Gojo honestly would have won if Sukuna didn't have the other assets to work with. If it was just straight up 1v1 Sukuna versus Gojo, Gojo would have won, in my opinion. We'll move on to our next take from TikTok. We have from CRYNRX. Sanji should not get Conqueror's Haki. It doesn't fit with his dream to ever achieve it. Usopp deserves it more. Here's what I will say. I honestly don't think either of them deserve Conqueror's Haki. I would be totally fine if no one else in the crew got it. I really don't think anybody else really needs it. Usopp's whole thing is about being a sniper or marksman or whatever. I think him just having the best observation on the crew is more than enough. Sanji, I don't think he needs to have the best anything Haki, because like you said with his dream, which I do agree with this part, his dream is to find the All Blue. His dream isn't to be a crazy fighter, a crazy protector, or like a crazy sniper or duelist or anything like that. Like, that's not his dream. So I do agree with you. I honestly I would say he doesn't need to be the strongest in any Haki, because that's just not really his role. His role is to be a chef, if we're being honest. So I would say overall W take, but I don't think Usopp really needs it either, but I would still say W take. Next, we have a take from Much.edit. If Hunter x Hunter was finished, it would be the greatest anime ever. It still is, but there's people that don't agree. Okay, I do think there is nobody that can dislike Hunter x Hunter. I think everybody that watches Hunter x Hunter will enjoy it. So that is something to say if you want to argue it as the best, because everybody enjoys it. You won't hear of a Hunter x Hunter hater. It just doesn't make sense because the show is really good. I do think if Hunter x Hunter does get finished, I think a lot of people will have it top 5, and a lot of people will have it as their greatest. The problem is with talking about greatest anime is you can't really give it a W or L take, because that just gets so like deeply interwoven into who you are as a person. Like, for example, I have Naruto as the greatest anime ever. I don't know if that'll ever change, because in order to be better than Naruto, you just have to be a better version of Naruto, and Hunter x Hunter isn't really like Naruto, so is it ever going to be better for me? I don't know. I'm still going to give it W take, but I don't like talking about which anime is necessarily the greatest, because that is so different for people. If you were to argue that it would be a top 5, top 10, I could absolutely agree with that. I think Hunter x Hunter would easily be a top 10 anime of all time if it finishes. So I'm still going to say W take. It's just I don't necessarily like throwing around the word greatest anime, because that's something that's super personal to each person. Next, we have a take from Parker Cravens, and he says Vinland Saga is a 7 out of 10. Honestly, I agree. I'm going to say W take. I know a lot of people really love Vinland Saga, and I agree with him. I think it's just a decent show. I don't know if his problems are the same as mine. I don't have a problem with any of the stuff in Season 2. I just have a problem when it's not Thorfinn on screen. I genuinely think Thorfinn is the only good character in the entirety of Vinland Saga. I know a lot of people really like Askeladd. I don't care for Askeladd at all. I'm not saying the other characters are bad, by the way, but there's no character nearly as good as Thorfinn in the entire show. So when you have any moment that's not about Thorfinn, it is immediately so much more boring. Now, I know there's not many moments like that, but there are some moments that are just about Canute or maybe like Thorkel or something, and those moments are incredibly boring. Honestly, it's like a snooze fest for me. When it's about Thorfinn, Love every second of it. When Thorfinn's not on the screen, I get really, really bored. I also don't really like Vikings, so maybe that's why, but I'd actually agree. I'd say it's probably a 7 out of 10. Next, we have a take from Demon Lord Sheep. We have SAO is good. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say L take. Like I said, Sword Art was my second favorite anime, and I think season 1, or not second favorite, sorry, second ever anime that I watched. I think season 1 was phenomenal. I think the concept of Sword Art is honestly what gets most people through it. It gets them through that bad season. But the second season, I believe it's second, maybe it was third, is so incredibly bad that, like, the only way you get through it is by coping that it's going to get better throughout because of how good the concept of it is. And maybe it does, I don't know. But that season is so incredibly bad, it just ruined my taste for the entire show. So I'm going to disagree. I don't think Sword Art is good. I think the concept is really good. Our next take is from KMC Curtis. ReZero is overglazed. 100% agree. I'm going to be honest, ReZero gets a lot of glaze. Now, I haven't seen a whole lot of it. However, I've seen some of it, and it's just not all that great. Also, I think it's weird because a lot of the love interests in the show are either minors or look like minors, and I think that is incredibly strange to do, and people are gonna be like, oh, it's a Japan thing or whatever. It's just fucking not. I mean, you don't see that in Naruto, you don't see that in One Piece, you don't see that in Bleach. I think it's incredibly weird that a lot of the love interest / special women interest look or are literally children. It is incredibly weird. So I agree that it's overglazed. I think it has a lot of issues that people don't want to talk about. Also, the stair scene sucked. People are gonna be like, oh, well, it was never meant to be anything good. Don't give a shit. It should have been good. Anyway, yeah, I do agree ReZero is overglazed. Also, it's an isekai, and like I said, most isekais are pretty bad. So yeah, it's definitely overglazed. But now we'll move on to our final hot take, which is from TikTok from Sleepy Moss. As someone who's watched all of Dragon Ball's only good media is the movies, and everything else is overhyped as shit and basic as hell. Here's what I will say. I'm going to give it a W take. I do agree for the most part if you're going to talk about things being overhyped and it is basic. Because it is, like I talked about earlier, it's a simple anime. It is one of the most simple anime you can ever watch. Like, a toddler can understand what's going on in Dragon Ball because it's so freaking easy to understand. Which makes it incredibly boring. And a lot of the hype moments are honestly just repeats over and over again of what happened. Like, after the original Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, hell, even Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue are practically just the same thing as Super Saiyan, but over and over again, and with less, honestly, impact. Like, nothing is going to be as impactful as Krillin dying and Goku going crazy. Super Saiyan 2 is honestly really forgettable. Super Saiyan 3 sucks as a transformation, not really that cool about how he got it. Super Saiyan God, same thing. It was just a, like, community handout shit, not cool. Super Saiyan Blue, probably the coolest since the original Super Saiyan, however, still doesn't have the impact that the original Super Saiyan did. And honestly, it's a lot of repeated stuff. And I do agree that a lot of it is very basic because no characters really face development other than Vegeta. He's really the only character with any writing at all in Dragon Ball. Now, this sounds like I'm hating. I like Dragon Ball, but I like it for what it is, a simple show. People will act like the show is not the easiest thing to understand and is not really basic because it is really basic. And people are going to say, oh, it was the first of its kind. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yu Yu Hakusho came out, what, like 5 years after Dragon Ball did, and it's better writing wise pretty much in every single way. So yeah, and then the movies part, I agree but I disagree. There's a lot of good movies, there's a lot of bad movies for Dragon Ball. Like the Gohan movie where he goes beast is probably the worst Dragon Ball movie and one of the worst anime movies of all time in my opinion. However, you got the same one, you got another one from Super. The Broly movie is one of the best anime movies I've ever seen, one of the best Dragon Ball movies ever. So I agree, but I would say the movies kind of followed the show too. Some of them are really good and some of them are really bad. But that's going to do it for today's video. Like I said, if you guys want a part 2, please show some love on this video and please leave down more hot takes in the comments. If we have enough comments, then I probably won't reply to them. I'll probably just make this another video. So, yeah, if you don't get a reply right away, that's why I'm going to be waiting to see how many we get. And if we get a good amount, I'm going to make another video. If not, I'll reply to them in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope to see you guys again. Upload anime videos 3 times a week. So, I'd like to see you guys again. Sorry I'm getting hiccups. Peace.